Many years ago, there lived a woman called Osarvi. Her name was not really Osarvi, but people call her that because of her medulla. Whenever people are fighting, Osarvi will be the first to reach there. Even when people are quarreling, she will be the first to hear it. She was a beautiful woman, neat and caring. She never for once supported men for shouting at their wives, neither beating them. She always showed concern for women. Osarvi was known as a peacemaker all over the village. She lived with her husband and son in a small hut, and they were always happy. They were not rich, but they never begged from anyone. They worked so hard to avoid begging and insults from neighbors. Her husband would always say, "As long as we don't beg from people every morning for food, we are not poor." They had plenty of farmland, and that was where the sons came from. They were satisfied with their farms, and that was enough for them. Osarvi's husband would always call her every morning. He would sat her down and told her she should stop doing Amebo, that he didn't like the names the villagers were calling her. Osarvi would tell her husband that she was not an Amebo, that she was only a peacemaker. She would say, "What if something bad happened to those fighters at the process of fighting?" Her husband would try to convince her that fight is fight. Nothing bad can happen unless one of them has an evil mind, he was said. Osarvi would tell her husband, "Look, you can't convince me. Don't you know fight invoke anger, and anger is the spirit of the devil, which could make someone to do that which is not right?" Her husband would become speechless because Osarvi had a sharper mouth. She can never accept her wrong. She only feels she was right. Her husband has gone several times to his healer to complain about Osarvi's behavior. Osarvi's parents would tell him to take it easy, that they will summon their daughter. And when they call Osarvi, she would claim she wasn't wrong by separating people from fight, that she was only trying to help. Her father would tell her, "My daughter, there is nothing wrong by separating people from fight. But don't you think making it as your occupation is wrong? Please, my daughter, stop it. Your husband is not comfortable with that act. Neither me or your mother," her father would say. Her mother would place her hand on her shoulder and said in a sweet and lovely voice, "My daughter, separate people from fight is risk. Besides, you are a woman, it's not good for you." Osarvi would agree to stop in the presence of her parents, but when she returned to her husband's house, she would continue her amiable work. Whenever the villagers saw her, they would call and shout her name, "Osarvi, Osarvi." At times they would turn the name to lyrics, and she wouldn't warn them about it. In fact, she would smile at them. Her husband and her son stopped going out with her because of the villagers. Her husband would say, "If a mad woman is not ashamed of herself, the family does." Yet she refused to change. Whenever her husband tried to stop her from going out, she would insult her husband and call him all sorts of names that would aggress him just to let her. But one fateful day, the weather was hot. Osarvi was going to the market. She was holding her bags on her hands. Suddenly, she saw a group of people fighting. She rushed there to separate them. Mistakenly, one of the fighters smashed bottle on her head and blood began to flow. When some of the villagers brought Osarvi to her house, her husband refused to show consent. They begged him to look for some herbs for her. He rethink and said, "Osarvi is my wife, I have to." 1 week later, Osarvi was already okay. She was sitting outside with her husband and son. They began to advise her never to go close to where people are fighting again. Osarvi kneeled down and thanked her husband so much for taking care of her. She vowed she would never go close to where people are fighting again. Her husband told her to stand up and sit. She did as her husband instructed. He asked her if she was going to stick to her word. She agreed she would. For some days, she did go to where people were fighting. Her husband and her son were so excited, thinking that she has changed. Even Osarvi's parents heard about it, and they were so glad. But one fateful day, Osarvi and her family just arrived from the farm in a hot afternoon. Her husband and her son were at the backyard, while Osarvi was lying on the ground resting. Suddenly, she heard her neighbor screaming. She couldn't help it. She looked as if her husband and her son were behind her. She ran straightly to her neighbor, thinking they were fighting. She forcefully opened the door without knocking and rushed into the room. Her eyes couldn't behold what she saw. Her neighbor's husband wanted to force himself on his wife that hot afternoon. The wife was refusing because the weather was too hot and the room was stuffy, but she intervened. The man got angry and said, "Since my wife couldn't satisfy me, you would." As the man was about to hold her, she opened the door forcefully and ran out. The man began to chase her. Her husband saw them and he began to shout, "Stop chasing my wife." The man said, "No, he must satisfy me. She barged into my matrimonial room without my consent. Probably she came for something and I must give it to her. Because of that, she must satisfy me." Her husband was so disappointed at her because she had vowed never to go close to where people were fighting again. She pleaded with the man to forgive her wife. The man forgave her, but warned her seriously never to barge into the couple's room again. Since then, Osarvi stopped separating people from fights. Even if the person was a close friend, she would not. Even if she was passing and the people were fighting, she would face where she was going. She swore with her life.